This studio took 5 years to build and it's my productivity dream. This space needed to be my bright main office workspace, my moody YouTube studio for recording videos and doing live streams, my rehearsal space, and it needed to feel as spacious as possible. And it all had to be done in a 12 by 12 foot room. And in this video, I'll walk through all the things that work to fit all this in here and make this space my ideal studio. Maybe some of these ideas will inspire you with your own studio. I'm Raphael and welcome to the channel where our goal is to always fix it in camera and then finesse it in post. And sometimes it's the little details that really take a hybrid workspace like this to the next level. The key to the studio working is it doesn't use any tripods or stands that aren't connected to the drum kit. Everything YouTube related is mounted to auto poles, and I mean everything. The backbone to the setup is holding up the mic with a Manfrotto magic arm with a super clamp, and the camera and teleprompter are both using gear tree attachments. These attachments are meant for a very specific system, but they work well with the auto pole. And I like that I can quickly move the camera up or down, move the teleprompter out of the way when needed. There are 3 more auto poles spanning across the room. One is holding up a key light with a super clamp. There's an overhead camera with a magic arm, as well as a 6-inch vice grip to mount other lights quickly if needed. The next auto pole is holding up the backlight with a 6-inch vice grip. Also, there's another 6-inch vice grip to mount another light when I'm shooting B-roll. And I'll show you that a little bit later. The last auto pole is holding up an 8x8 sound blanket from Vocal Booth to Go. I actually have 2 sound blankets in the room. The other one is mounted to the door to both cut down the bounce in the room and noise spilling in from outside of the room. This works really great when recording and for client calls. So I highly recommend the door sound blanket. The main light I'm using is the Amaran 150C. This light is actually more powerful than I expected it to be for the price point. And it's super quiet, and it has an aperture light dome mini 2 with a grid on to reduce the spill and to focus the light on the 5x7 foldable bounce against the wall. This creates really soft lighting, and it also makes the light source seem larger. It's like having a huge softbox and a light mounted behind the wall. There is no other way to get this kind of light size in a space like this without bouncing it off the walls. The back rim light is a 9-light Pavotube 30 with the fabric barn doors to really focus the light only on me. Otherwise, there's too much spill in the room. So if you have one of these and you find that it spills a bit too much, the barn doors are a great addition. There's also an Aperture MT Pro for a small fill light that I mount right onto the teleprompter to give a little bit of uplighting to fill in the face. Without it, I always felt that the shot felt a bit too dark. Let me know which shot you prefer down in the comments. I use the Amaran SM5C LED light strips, which lights up the back of the bookshelf, which I found on Wayfair. The bookshelf, not the lights. There's also a small Nanlite Pavotube 2 6C to light up the top of the bookshelf, and also a 3D printed moonlight that I use for warm accent light in the background. Added bonus, having my live stream and YouTube setup right here next to my main workstation makes my Zoom calls the talk of the client meetings. My main camera is the full-frame Sony FX3 with the 24mm 1.4 G Master lens. And the overhead camera is the Canon R8 with the 16 to 35mm 2.8 lens. And sometimes I use the R8 as my second angle camera with the 50mm 1.2 lens. I also use the Insta360 Go for wide-angle shots or mimicking probe-like shots. It's really a fun little camera to use. I have the Sennheiser MK50 as my main mic that is plugged into the FX3 directly with an XLR. I wanted something that was close to me without being in the frame. I tend to talk a lot with my hands, and a podcast mic would just get slapped around, so it was a no-go. But this is a great microphone. It is the Elgato Wave 3 USB mic mounted to the low-profile Wave mic arm, and it's been 2 years with this mic and arm combo, and they've both held up great, and the mic sounds fantastic. The goal was to have one computer drive the whole studio. I wanted one computer that could do everything. my main work, my YouTube, and live streaming. Since I do a lot of tutorials, I didn't want to maintain two separate machines with the same plugins and apps. This way I have access to everything I'm working on. And if I wanted to demo something, I could. That's why I have the Mac Studio M1 Max. And these studio machines are fantastic. I don't have a need to upgrade to the latest machine yet, maybe for the M3 version. This machine only has 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, and is able to run all the pro apps. DaVinci Resolve, the Adobe Creative Suite, Cinema 4D, Topaz AI, and Final Cut Pro. And if you want to get the most out of Final Cut Pro, I have a masterclass course you can check out. The link is in the description. The Mac Studio also handles live streaming like a champ. It can handle the live streaming, screen recording, recording the camera feed, playing back 4K footage, and driving 4 displays and mirroring on the Apple TV, effectively giving me 5 displays at once, all the while everything else is happening. One thing that I will do when I eventually do upgrade the computer, I will get the Ultra. Not only for the extra horsepower in the computing, because it has more Thunderbolt 4 ports, especially on the front. And I find that I could use that right now, especially when plugging in drives or cameras to transfer large files. It is significantly slower with the 2 front ports. And a bump in the RAM would also be nice. The displays that I'm using are the BenQ Designer View PD3220U and 2 LG Ultrafine Thunderbolt 3 39UL950s. Everything is driven through Thunderbolt 3. All 3 monitors are 32-inch, and I love the real estate that gives. 2 monitors are my main workstation monitors, and the third is for live streaming and Zoom calls. There's a 4th monitor connected directly to the HDMI port. That is the Lilliput 10-inch field monitor, which I use as my teleprompter monitor because it has the ability to flip the image. And the large monitor above my workstation is a 55-inch Samsung monitor, which I use as a preview monitor or to watch movies when I'm rendering. One of my favorite nice to haves is the BenQ screen bar monitor light. It really does help with eye fatigue, lights up the desktop nicely, avoiding the monitors and your eyes. For production storage, I use the Samsung T7 Shield and a couple of T5s for more commonly used assets. I use these and not a NAS system, mainly because these small drives are cheap for 4 terabytes. They are really fast for what I need, and for every new project that comes in, I buy a new one and work dedicated on that drive for that project. After the project is done, I label it and archive it. I also have an 18 terabyte Seagate drive that does the backup weekly or nightly if I can remember it. And it's a relatively inexpensive backup insurance. My headphones are the Beyerdynamics DT770 Pro 32 ohms. They are great neutral frequency headphones that make it easier for mixing. And they're really comfortable and I can wear them for long extended periods. The teleprompter I use is from Prompter People. It's one specifically designed for iPads, but works great with small monitors like this Lilliput 10-inch field monitor. I actually find that this works better than iPads because you can put anything on this monitor and flip it and push anything into it from the main computer, like a Zoom call, a script, the chat, anything they want, where an iPad is only really good for teleprompting. My go-to mouse is the Logitech MX Master 3S, and it is by far my favorite mouse that I've ever used. It has a quiet click, which at first I thought it was broken, but it's really nice not to be called out during calls for loud clicking. The iPhone and Apple Watch charger is the OtterBox Tri-Charger stand, and it powers the phone and watch and AirPods if you have them at their full charging rate. I've had a few other wireless charging stands, but they never charged at a fast enough rate and they became even slower when there were multiple devices on them. So those were frustratingly slow. This one charges at a really fast rate for all devices that are connected to it. This is one of my favorite new items that I have is Peter Lindgren's Tri-Charge battery charger. It's so good and handy that it charges and stores 3 batteries at once. This one is for Sony, but they also make it for Canon and Nikon as well. It also stores my SD cards, so they're not sitting on my desk randomly anymore. You can see that the batteries are charged with a click of a button, and it doubles as a battery bank if you need to charge your phone or any other accessories. And I love that everything is ready to go at a moment's notice. Just throw it in your bag and you're good to go. The desk is a standing desk from IKEA, but I rarely use the standing feature. If I want to stand, I'll stand. But I'm not a big fan of standing and working if I don't have to. And mounted under the desk is the headphone holder. This little item is fantastic. It makes the headphones quick access while keeping them off the desk. There is a large power bar mounted under my desk with USB plugs, so it's easy to plug in accessories quickly right next to me, or to plug in USB gadgets without taking up ports on the computer. My chair is probably one of the best investments I made for my office, and it's the Steelcase Leaf. It's super pricey, but I've had this one for over a decade and it's still fantastic. It's comfortable and my back doesn't hurt sitting in it for hours. Perhaps that's why I don't use the standing desk. I also have this wooden table, which I found and liked the texture and color, and it was the right size for what I needed. It also serves as my B-roll desk, which I can pull out and film in the center of the room. And this is a quick process by moving the table and then moving a light from one auto pole to the other, pointing it down. I really did try to make full use of this space and quick access to anything that I needed for any kind of shooting scenario that I would need in this space. The rest of the studio is my Roland V drum set, which is about the coolest toy I've ever owned. It's electronic and supposedly silent, but apparently not with the way I play. I've organized my closet as a gear closet for storage of stands, odds and ends, my camera cases, cables, old drives, and spare parts. I mostly keep my camera gear and lenses in the camera cases with easy access. And it's really good when I do have shoot days because most of my gear is organized and ready to go. I didn't think it was going to take me 5 years to refine this space to what it is now, but for the last couple of months, I feel that this space has been working fantastic and hitting all the marks that I felt were needed in a space like this. And I really like working and playing here. And if you spend lots of time in your space, take the time to make it the best for you. And if you do work from home, check out this video where I talk about the best tips and tricks to make your working from home experience fantastic. Also, I live stream on my second channel where I deep dive on the creative process as well as freelance financials. So make sure you check that out. As always, thanks for watching.